3, 2, 1.
Welcome to ASD Market Week's YouTube series, Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. This is your all-access pass to the world of buying and selling in the retail space. We're getting candid and having real conversations on what it takes to get the deal done. This is Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. Hello and welcome to Retail Revelations Inside the Deal. I'm your host, Stephanie Beringhele, and joining us for our first episode of Season 2, we have a treat. I refer to him as one of the most wanted men in retail. And joining us, we've got Dominick Miserandino.
Perfect. You did good. You did good.
Right. And he is the CEO of RTM Nexus. Welcome to the show, Dominick.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a treat. I love it.
When I say most wanted man, because I see you on TV.
Thank
You are
you.
on news stations. You're at every major conference. You're at trade shows. You're on LinkedIn. You're just a man of mystery. And I can't wait to dig in because we're going to talk about
Let's dig
everything
in.
from
I'm ready.
tariffs. We're going to do some maybe AI. And of course, we got to talk about e-commerce and retail. So you ready to do this?
I'm ready to do all the things.
Perfect. So for those that may not know who you are, give us the dig. What's the story? Who are
I
you?
can do it. I've been in the media side of things for a few decades now. I founded two pretty big publications online. You can see it on my LinkedIn. That mainstream side of things allowed me to see things in retail from the B2C side. And what I mean is, like, in retail, you're selling number of units sold is the big conversation. I was discussing how much we love. Oh, I love these headsets. They're great. You know, it was that angle of it. I took over Retail Wire for a stint and then got pretty deep onto this end of the retail side of the mirror between B2C and B2B. And have had a ball for the past year, launched RTM, Retail Tech Media Nexus, where we're kind of connecting people between retail and tech and media and retail, connecting all those dots.
And you just did a session earlier on today. What did you speak on? It was a very important topic.
Yes, basically how to grow your LinkedIn. I found once I broke 30,000 followers, I became popular. 29,900, not so popular. 30,000, very popular. You know, one is the movement to the other, if you will.
So LinkedIn is by far one of my favorite channels to prospect, connect, learn about the industry. And we talk to our clientele all the time and say, if you are currently not investing in yourself and creating a space where you can learn and invest in yourself, it's time to do it. You got to make that jump. You got to invest in yourself.
It is the primary, to me, the primary channel for business. It has evolved a lot. I mean, I would say most of my conversations are coming from LinkedIn. I'm very lucky. I'm on a few board of directors, and those companies, LinkedIn. It's all been LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate with that.
I love how modest you are. You're like, oh, I'm just on a few board members. I've seen your page. You're affiliated with a lot of big groups. So that's
Thank
why
you.
we're
Thank
also
you.
excited to chat with you. But I'm going to go back. We're going to pull some stuff from your memory.
Okay, I could
Back
do it. I
in
could do it. I've had coffee.
1995.
I could do it.
Yeah. Back in 1995, it sounded like you were the co-founder of the Celebrity Cafe.
The Celebrity
Talk
Cafe, I
to
was
me
the
about that.
founder. I was the founder. It was the first online magazine ever. Went from 95 to 16, around there, 2017. It was a unique experience. I interviewed over 500 plus celebrities. Oh yeah, I've had conversations with Led Zeppelin, Blues Traveler, Dave Matthews, Cyndi Lauper. It was unique. It gave me number one, a few different skills in my pocket. I enjoyed. I think we might have met one of our conference worlds. A lot of the time, I've been doing the on stage stuff in the retail sector. They'd say, "How do you know how to do an interview?" Well, when you interview Wu-Tang Clan, you get pretty used to handling. Oh yeah. So it was a lot of good experiences like that. I'm very lucky for that experience, and it was also well known, which I think is what contributed to the rest of the media appearances. I think we had at our peak about 40 million Americans reading it every month at one point.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. So there was a moment, more than one occasion, I'd be in Manhattan and someone would know who you were. And I was like, all right, I could handle that. No problem. Okay. So it was funny. It was very random fame, though, I should say. Like, it wasn't all the time. 1 out of 10 times, which makes it much more concerning when someone out of the blue says, "I know you," and you're like, "Okay, 9 times out of 10, no one knew who the
Yeah.
hell I was. One time I'm famous, great." So it was a very random fame, I would say. Very random.
Did you have a favorite person that you interviewed or group? Like who just made you just curious and satisfied once you did the interview with them?
Oh, there was so many. Bruce Hornsby was an inspiration because I played piano and I loved Bruce Hornsby.
Oh,
But that was just unique for me. I sat on a couch with uh, Led Zeppelin. I had an interview. I was at a party for Madonna once. That was unique. Oh yeah. I tell people the story frequently. I was at some party at 3 a.m. with Fred Schneider from the B-52s.
ah,
And that was unique. I danced with Gilbert Gottfried once. That was another wacky one.
okay.
They were all abstract moments, and they were great, and, but, of course, when you tell anyone on your team, like Gilbert Gottfried, and they go, "Who is he?" Like, "Oh, thanks a lot, man. That stinks. You should know these people."
You right? Oh, you went from that world and then you transitioned really heavy into retail. How did that shift develop?
It really was, as I said, that talking on the other side of the mirror. So I think at times, I had one funny conversation with someone in the retail space, and they were like, "You know, you've never been in retail." I said, "Yeah, but I would talk to the CMO about such and such.
Mhm,
Is that who you're talking about for retail?" There was a
mhm,
summer they would send over a car a week to review, for example, and I'm talking about heads of Lexus and Ford, etc. That was pretty common, or products or events in the city, and you're getting used to from that consumer side. I think, on top of that, through the pandemic, I worked well over 100 plus e-commerce companies of some form
okay.
because A, I got bored and I wanted to get through the pandemic and not go insane. And B, I was fortunate. I was just blocking my time. I would have an hour calls 5 times a day, and it was a real crash course on what people were going through, but because I ran a business knowing how to get people in the door, 40,000,000 Americans, and then, the next I ran had 80,000,000 Americans
Mhm,
a month, it taught me how the mechanisms work. In fact,
absolutely.
RTM Nexus I mentioned because the way we're getting them in the door is to tell the story. Every retailer is telling the story, whether it's a billboard, whether it's advertising, whether it's interviews. It can't generally, there are exceptions to the rule. Most times, the way retailers are selling the products is to tell that story via some vehicle. The consumer hears the story and says, "I really want that thing," whatever that thing may be. Story could be through a commercial, could be through interviews, and I was always in that conduit land hearing those
Mhm.
stories. So it was never foreign to me. It was just seeing it from the other side of the mirror, basically.
I love that. It's so interesting because for ASD Market Week, we are built on generational businesses and the
Mm.
stories and the content of these companies. It's unreal to know that it started in the 1890s, right? And now it's evolved to something completely
I
different.
love that.
And each person has their own very different journey. And I think it's shaped so much by we've got the technology that's coming through. The retail space is constantly evolving. And I know you've been on a lot of interviews lately, and I'll let you tell us what have been the top topics for you. I think tariffs might be one of them.
I think tariffs is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and
Yeah.
6 this year. You know, all these TV interviews I've been doing, they've been asking about tariffs because, yeah, I mentioned again, the other side of the mirror, the consumer, they just want to buy eggs. They just
Yes.
wanna buy their products, and I think we're trying to educate through a filter of fact while the market is dictating politically. "Oh, are
Mhm.
tariffs good and bad?" The average person in America just wants to buy their damn eggs. They just want
That's
to buy
right.
their food. They wanna get cars and not worry, and I think there's a complexity that has occurred. I was at in this, fall, I went to a conference called Deliver, and it was about, supply chain and such, and I
Mhm.
found it so amazing when you figure out all the pieces of the puzzle. that come into this magical economy that allows us to get anything you want delivered to your house in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And now a wrench is in that system, a very big wrench. And I wonder when that impact hits, how most people are going to react. And that's what we're living with right now.
I love that you nailed it where it's all about the consumer. The consumer doesn't want to know the mundane world of logistics and freight and
No,
costs and tariffs and this and that. At the end of the day, they want to know, I just bought this great product for my family and they're fed, they're healthy, and they're under this roof and everything kind of works. And I think that sometimes you're right. People are so caught up in the moment that the roof is on fire and there's all these things. And at the end of the day, it's this simplicity. The simplicity of it is just saying, we've got your back. We want you to have your household in order, and we are going to be the most cost effective place for you to do your shopping.
I think you hit the nail on the head actually with your face when you described it. You had the
Mhm.
passion about it. And the average consumer, I want to feed my family. I want to be happy. I want to
Yeah.
enjoy life. I can't be bothered figuring out logistics, etc. And I think that's really, the secret of Amazon.
Mhm.
Um, on one hand, you'll hear the conversation be their operations and their supply chain, which is valid, true. But the secret really is to me the consumer end. They press a button and they're
Yeah.
happy. That's all it is. Press that button, have a nice day, beautiful. Um, that to me is the magic that, I say on the consumer side of this equation, people just want joy. They
Yeah.
just want to feel happy. They just want to connect. And how do we give them that joy?
Mhm.
You know, that's really where I almost feel like at times the biggest lesson I've learned. Retail and conferences that the wonderful one you put together, we're talking about the mechanisms.
Yeah.
And we need to also remember there's a human behind this equation who just wants to go to work, get their food, survive, and be happy.
Oh, yeah. Which leads into, okay, so AI for me, I love it. I embrace it in my everyday. First of all, it makes my shopping experience way better because I have some system that notes my preferences and they're like, "Oh, you should also try this, and what about that?" And it extends on not just like shopping for food and stuff like that, but also when I hit up Netflix, I don't want to go through all the different things. Please tell me things that I might like based
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
what I've watched previously. So, how have you embraced AI, and what do you tell people today what they should be on the lookout for?
I think AI is entertaining at this stage because everyone's using it to replace things. They're using
Mhm.
it. Give me top 10 movies, write an essay for my school on the top 10 movies or whatever, and something ridiculous like that. And I find it so useful as that extension. I gave it a database, said, help me find what line number is XYZ on the database. Here's some code on a website. Help me debug this and find the error in the code. Whenever it's an extension, it works brilliantly. In the retail space, I saw one product, for example, recently. I was so impressed. It would poll people in the store without having to have someone go by with a clipboard. So it would kind of look at you and say, woman from Los Angeles walking, like it would identify anonymously. And I think that was an interesting usage because we don't want to be inconvenienced. You don't want to go to the shop and then have someone stop you on the shop and ask you questions. But I love also that, or the ones you've been seeing lately where the stores now interact to such a degree. You've been looking at the blue shirt. Would you like the blue pants? And here's why. It's interesting because I think the more we can make this experience seamless, actually, it's funny now. The first time I thought of it, and once you have AI in the front end, I'm wondering how the consumer is going to react if operations gets affected. I want everything seamless. And if I can have an easy shopping experience due to AI helping me, but my logistics and supply chain is messed up, that might mess up my whole experience. We have an expectation of ease as humans at this point. We have that expectation of making things beautiful. So why complicate it, so to speak, you
Mhm.
know?
We're so spoiled, you could put it. We're spoiled because we're so used to clicking buttons and it's like, oh, it's gonna be delivered tomorrow. This is so exciting. And then when it does it, you're like, oh,
How could that
worst
happen?
service ever.
Exactly. That is the nature of it, and it's but same with when I say the AI, you wanna go to the shop, have it know what you want, pull up what you want, and instantly press your button, and you're done, and you got the sample, and you can do a 3D rendering of it, and you could see it
Yeah.
in the house, or I love when the Amazon, you could do the video rendering and showing how it looks in your home. That's great. It's so a spoiled effect that we want instantaneous, see what it is, get it there, press the button, it appears there in my living room tomorrow. That's a hell of
And
an
then
expectation.
it not only that, but then it becomes so how do retailers who are more mom and pop, how do they compete? What are the best practices where at some point you're not going to be able to do the same thing that an Amazon can do. So don't be an Amazon. How do you
Oh, I
embrace
agree.
what it is that you do well with your authenticity? It's your story, it's your store setup. So talk to us a little bit about that world of protecting yourself as an independent retailer.
For an independent retailer, I'm always preaching to connect everything is about connect with the consumer.
Yeah.
Let's start right there. It's all business is connecting with people. It's relationship, relationship, relationship. Um, yes, Amazon has done a brilliant job of expediting immediacy. There is even the concept of Temu has blown me away. If you think just
Oh
you could
yeah.
order things from another continent and it comes here in a day, it feels like. But I think the local retailer and the independent retailer has a major opportunity. We still want to connect. Experiential marketing,
Mhm.
to me, is something that can easily be ramped up. I was on a panel recently and mentioned how I go to a place to get my hair cut, and I have a house also in Canada, and there's a place by my condo that is very experiential. They had a
Uh-huh.
coffee machine. It's very cyberpunk looking. And I thought to myself, there was a brilliance that the man feels comfortable to go and get a haircut, and it's easy. And I think the average independent realtor can maneuver those ways, do a pop up, connect with their community
Yeah.
much easier than in Amazon, and that's their advantage. And especially they can use AI to enhance data and then use the AI to really target directly.
Mhm.
That to me is how the independent retailer can stand out and really scale up.
I love it. It's so not an independent retailer. They're actually a very large corporation. Fabletics, have you heard of them?
No.
So Fabletics does all of the athleisure,
Oh,
athletic
yes,
wear.
yes,
They got Kate Hudson. They've got Khloe Kardashian. They have
yes.
everyone. And there is a store that's down the street from me. And I only go once, once every month, maybe, because I
That's
have
not a
this
lot.
subscription model. Not a lot.
Yeah, you can see how often I've gone. It took me a second to even recall the name, so I don't deny that now.
Well, I love working out. And so I go once a month because they do the drops. So I have a subscription model where every month they take money out of my bank account, right? So I have my little money. I get a
Yeah,
discount for buying that month because I'm a member. But
okay.
they're so brilliant because then they offer classes. And I have never taken a class before, but they offer classes at the store. So it's just another way for it
Part of
might
it
not
all.
be my cup of tea, but it could
Yeah.
be somebody else's cup of tea. And then all of a sudden it's all the elements of you've got me on a monthly subscription box. So you have that constant cash flow that's going through.
Oh,
Now you
yeah.
have special events where I can work out if I decided to do it. And then there's new drops. It's like the perfect combination.
See, what I love about what you're describing is I had a question a few years ago when I had the Celebrity Cafe. I think we were the number 7 publication online. It wasn't number 1, but it was CNN, of course, but etcetera. And the guy was like, "Are you upset being number 7?" I was like,
No.
No, I'm fine." I think especially retail, one does not have to know it all, and there's so many worlds.
Mhm.
You can be the king of that world. I'm not in that world. You are, and you can cater to that world and make that person feel they are the queen of that world and
Yeah.
they're loving it. And I think that exactly experiential, where you're having that subscription model, essentially, you're part of a club. Join
Part of a
come
class.
to our class,
Yeah.
hang out. You wanna get more, do it. You want, don't, here's a bottle of water, have fun, and
Yeah.
that to me is where the evolution comes in, where you could start having these micro communities that we could speak to and communicate with. It's funny, you always hear the retail apocalypse, and I don't think that's the scenario. I think we just have to learn to create these communities better and learn to communicate with the communities better.
And maybe that's the big culprit because I hear the same thing all the time. If you look at the news, it is doom and gloom, retail is suffering, and there's this and there's that. Well, I see a lot of opportunity. I never like to see, what is it, the glass half full. I
Yep.
see it full and brimming, and there's so much goodness. And what else can we do? So, have you been hearing similar sentiment that people are worried about the current retail space? And what is it that they're talking about that they're going to do because they find opportunity in it?
I think the worry is supply chain and tariffs right now,
Mhm.
but the solution is experiential and personal and direct. It is serving those needs, but everything's that evolution. I've been in online publishing for since 1995, and the nature of that, the nature of how humans consume information evolves. It's all clips
Oh,
when it
yeah.
was 7,000 word essay, but we wouldn't do that. It was a world. I mean, I recall quite vividly people on the subway reading a New York Times and they'd read the article, the whole train ride for an hour. But now you're on the train with Wi-Fi doing a
Mhm.
30-second clip. And I think when it comes to retail, we've had that evolution of immediacy. We have it in our hands. You could order from China to Temu the next day. Now we're having that change of direct speaking to the consumer. You're the example of it where you can go work out and shop and get a subscription easy at that point. And the more we do that, the more we speak to that, I think the better off we are.
So talk to us about because there's a lot of noise in the market and it's hard for smaller businesses to get their little voice heard amongst the giants. So when you talk about the average person today, they are click happy. They get inundated with some emails and stuff
Mhm.
on their social channels. So what are key ways for them to stand out?
I think that is always, first of all, the challenge, standing out. You want, but it's not an impossibility. You are the good example right now. Uh, they just had to connect to you. I don't need to know about you. They just had to connect to you. So I didn't need to know the store. I didn't need to know the classes. We have that ability now, and I think if you kind of break it down for that small shop and say, how many customers do you really need?
Mhm.
I ran to a restaurant to speak to this. They have 6 tables, and the guy said, "That's all I need. I do 2 seatings. I do 6 p.m. and 8 p.m." And I was
Oh,
like, "Great, you have 6 tables?" He goes, "Yeah, that's all I need. Small little shop in French Quebec, Quebec City, Canada."
okay.
Um, and it was amazing. Like he would just text his customers. He'd post on Facebook, "I have one opening. You have like 2 hours to book the table, or that's it. You're out." And I love that concept that social media allowed him to directly reach his customers. He didn't want more. He didn't want to get bigger. He didn't need to get bigger. He was quite happy in who he is. And he would just do it for fun. If you went to the restaurant, it was a chef and the one guy up front kind of manning all the tables.
Oh,
That was it. They were happy, and everyone would go and do like a prefix, $100 a head, $150 a head, basically private chef type dinner. But I do think when you're speaking to retail or any direct to that consumer, we can do that now. And that to me is exciting. And it's just thinking in this guy's case, he had a Facebook page. He'd write
mhm.
down your phone number. He would text you.
Oh my
Like, could you
gosh.
imagine getting a text step? "Well, I have a table if you want it. If not, I'm going to the next person." Like, that's amazing and
What a good
easy.
spot he's in. That's a good business.
Great. And he could do that and get and fill his tables. He did it as long as he wanted. He was in the middle of nowhere in the town and just people showed up. but we have that ability. You and I connected because of LinkedIn, and you could just
Mhm.
reach out and connect to people and say, "How's it going? Like, what can we work on together? How's life?" And
Yeah.
that is amazing. So I always encourage people to reach out, to connect. I one of the recent board roles, the guy just was a buddy of mine. He texted me, "Dude, it's been a while. Let's talk."
Yeah,
Like,
right?
you have that. You and I message, "Hey, we gotta do something. It's been
Mhm.
X number of years we've been trying." Life gets in the way, as always life seems to do, but we make it work. And if you so I think that's what's unique about this. The solution to me is that just direct human connection.
Mhm. And embracing social and tech is such a vital part of getting your voice out there and being
Oh, yeah.
authentic and being able to have control over it. It's one of the number one things. It's so interesting because we have a client who he's been at our show for 40 years. And
Okay.
just recently, him and his team have really embarked on LinkedIn and they do these little clips. It's Danny's deals of the week. And he decided that they are all going to be funny. So he'll have his slippers on and he'll like wave his foot and be like, "Ooh, these slippers are on sale. And this is Danny's deal of the week." Or they just did workout ones and they have the old fashioned 80s headbands while they're doing, the little bands and stuff that they're selling. But he said, "I'm all in. I'm on it. I want to make it funny, entertaining, and I want to make sure that they know that these are great deals. They're not going to get anywhere else and that they're in stock and they're ready to ship." And I thought, what a great way for you to stand out amongst all your competitors in a really cool way that people are talking about it now. And then they reshare it and say, "I just saw this week. It was so cute, and fun." So it's
You
it's
hear these
important.
stories, which I love all the time. There was one during COVID, I remember, and I always tell the story. She was the Pearl Lady, and she was a very big woman. She could probably bench press me kind of person. And she would come on I TikTok or Facebook Live or whatever at the time, and she would chuck oysters to get the pearl. And she would live sell the pearls. But what was amazing is people were watching this as the comical show of this big Southern woman, like, "I'm gonna shuck your pearl,
Yeah.
here you go." And she was selling a pearl every minute. And
Oh,
I found that such an amazing connect with. She almost probably knew the visualness of this, big woman chucking pearls and screaming on the camera, "Pearl number 1 is for you, we got pearl number 2 for you." And people were buying these $20, $30 pearls, 1 a minute, and I love the fact this person is surviving and having a really good business, small independent business, chucking pearls and mailing people
right?
in postal envelopes a pearl through the mail. Like, it was just insane to me. I couldn't picture, but we have that. So, we're speaking to the independent in that sense. You could do that, but that concept
Yeah.
still is the same. I was also in my past, I was the CMO of Adorama Pics online photos. And there was one time I moved my office to the customer service room. So there was about 8 people answering the phones, and I just sat there. I literally sat in the middle and said, "I need to know what's happening." And there was more than one occasion I'd say, "Interrupt that call. Wait a minute, what's their problem? Oh, they're waiting for 12%, a coupon." Right? You know what? Let me look up their order, give them 14%. Just give them an extra. Like, I was right there at the moment able to intercede. And I think so many businesses forget that you have the ability with all of these tools we're talking about, you have the ability to reach out directly.
It's your curious mind. I'm so happy that you did that because in order to understand, you have to be willing to put in the work and the exposure to see what's really going on behind the layers, and that's at the core of the market. So I think that that's brilliant. They did. It's like the undercover boss in a way.
Oh, yeah, I think that's just curious mind is the trick.
Yeah.
You always need to wonder why. You always need to investigate, think to yourself, what is going to really, move things? And the more
Mhm.
you do, the more you learn. You just learn about people. Just saying, "What do you need? What's going on with you?"
So that extends. I want to go into surviving retail. Sometimes you have to close shop and you have to sell your business because maybe that next generation's like, "Oh, Dad, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go do this over here. And all that hard work that you've invested over the years that have supported the household, well, no one wants to take it on anymore. So I believe in your past, you have helped entrepreneurs sell their businesses and make some cash. So how does that look? What's advice for that person that just can't do it anymore?
Yeah, I think it's the same advice for any transition. Um, Pivots and transitions are not easy. They are difficult, emotionally. At times, my greatest success in business is when I could go with the pivot or could go with the transition. Not easy.
Mm-mm.
And if you are looking at that selling the business and exit, it's sometimes just like selling a house. There's an emotional component to it. There's all that, but just evaluating these decisions in the reality it is. It's a transaction. It's stinks at times. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's freeing. Sometimes you're selling that house and you're like, yeah, I don't need all this. You know, I got two guitars in the background. I only need one
Right?
today. I'm done. That's it. Just doing the acoustic. I can't even plug in the electric anymore. I'm done. Um, but a lot of it, I discuss the psychological component greater than the financial component.
Hmm.
You can sell a house, you know the price of it, but then you have to get through the emotion. And the same is with the business. But any transition, it's just seeing where this is all going and saying, I want to ride with that or I don't. And that's okay.
Hmm. Omitting the emotional front of it because factually you have an invested dollar amount that people value your company
Oh, yeah.
and you can't change that. It is what it is. And once you start putting it down on paper, then you have to really say, okay, even though I think it's $1 million business, it might not translate into the paperwork, and that's okay. But if the opportunity is for you to sell it, get some cash flow, and that's what it is, then you got to do it,
I agree. More power to it.
right?
I agree. A lot of it, what I've been doing on the consulting side, it's that conversation just to understand where the person's at.
Yeah.
That truly is number one to me by far. You
You're like
have
a
to have the
therapist.
conversation. You have to be at times, but that's with any business. You are always asking the right questions and saying, "What is happening? How can I help you? How can I understand what you're going through, if you
Mhm.
will?" That is what's so uh, important in general.
Yeah. Well, so for those that are staying in business and have no desire to shut their doors today or tomorrow, I want to get your scoop. You talk to so many different people and you ask really good questions. What do you think is the future of retail? What is it? If you had to tell somebody today what you thought is going to transpire within these 6 months to maybe till the end of this year, what does it look like? What does that landscape look like?
I mean, I think we certainly have this landscape of people. On one hand, you have that whole tariffs issue. I've been on TV twice a week about tariffs for the past 6 months. Um, Operations and supply chain are everything. But ultimately, what comes down to this transaction, ultimately, the secret to retail is that emotion with it. I mean, one example I point to is luxury retail, where
Mm,
you have that emotion with it. Why would you spend thousands of dollars on a bag unless you felt good about it? Most of the retail world is just that. It's a feeling. And I think sometimes the operation side, that instant transaction, causes us to forget why you're doing what you're doing.
mhm.
Um, Movies are an example of that, where you want to go, and that's why we as Americans have that great movie industry. We can make people feel happy.
Yeah.
Music, obviously, to me, it's a way of connecting. And I think the more we're starting to use the transactional components, supply chain, instant communication, AI, social media, to expedite that emotional component, I think then we have the secret. Then we're
Yeah.
flying. As long as you double down on one or the other, I think that's where you have the hiccup. Ultimately, the goal can't be forgotten. Connect the product to the human, make people happy, and spread joy. But there's ways of doing it, and these are the tools to do it, and use the tools correctly is obviously the secret that people seem to forget every so often.
Do you think that with everything going on, there's going to be obviously there's going to be more development of product within the states? Do you think we're going to see an influx of goods from company or from countries that maybe don't have the same kind of tariff situation? If Brazil is only getting a 10%, and then if you go someplace else, then it's like 38%. Do you think that's going to play a factor until the end of this year until it kind of meshes out a little bit?
Well, first of all, predicting what happens with these tariffs is like predicting the weather. It's
I
not easy to do.
know.
Um, Other countries, which is funny, are who are not doing this are still seeing the free trade, so they're ordering from Temu, the likes. We, however, beyond tariffs, have open borders of communication. If you're sitting at home and you can't order Temu in Los Angeles, and your friend in Vancouver is laughing, saying, "I'm ordering it." Oh, but I want to order this Fendi bag, and the tariff is this, and your friend in is doing it. You're going to start wondering,
Oh
wait a
yeah.
minute, what am I doing? I think on one hand, certainly we find that, but I always think we've never had a moment in human history with instant communication like this. I did a video call today, and it just amazes me at times. It was 8 people on the call, and um, everyone's in a different state, different country, and of course,
Mhm.
instantaneous. And we take that for granted. But I think when it comes to retail and trade, that's there. We now have that instant communication
Mhm.
with when it comes to tariffs and trade. Those 2 levers are in fight. I think, that Retail Tech Media Nexus, I made the idea of that little triangle,
Yeah.
the media being social media communication. So when you're discussing the tariffs, I think that's gonna be the other side of that balance. You can't really argue, "Why is my friend in Canada getting this bag and I can't get it?"
That's right.
Something's up, or where's the best deal, or let me figure out to fly to Mexico to pick up this over here and claim I bought the purse anyway and my own and I had it at home. And that natural system is going to start to affect, at the least, trade. And people are going to say, wait a minute, something's up here.
Mhm.
That's also what makes it different, too. I think tariffs in the past, you didn't have as much communication, you didn't have as much um, interconnectedness. When we threw tea in the Boston Harbor, it was a very
Yeah.
you could track it out, you could see who's selling the tea to who, you knew the ships, you knew what's going on. We don't have trade systems like that, we don't have supply chains, and I do think, the instant TikTok communication has caused such a change that
Oh
people
yeah.
are going to react differently, and I do think that's the one thing that has not been taken into account is media communication in general is a factor here. People are seeing information, seeing factories. I actually ran to a guy and I just got such a kick out of it where he would just FaceTime his supplier in China, look at the factory, show me the factory. I want this, I don't want that. Just shopping remote like this.
Mhm.
Well, that's possible now, which was unheard of 5, 10 years ago. You couldn't really do as instant international to that degree. He was filling up a shipping container just live,
Oh wow.
and I love that concept. That is well possible. Now that we have that stage, it makes me think any of the tricks of the trade we might have done, tariffs or policies or this, they're different now. And the human experience is different, and the human expectation is now different.
So true. It's so interesting because I always go beyond the headlines. Now you've got the social media advantage where you can just connect with other people and have that conversation right away and open up the floodgates. At the
Mhm.
same time, we always talk about our exhibitors and buyers. We put them on a trade show floor because that's the best. You talk about ROI, but it's ROI outside of monetary. It's that human influence of saying, okay, I need to ship this out or I need to do that. And it all goes back to what you first said when we first started this conversation of the end of the day, the consumer does not care what is going on so
No.
long as they get immediate gratification, they can buy that product and it doesn't hurt their purse and they can bring it into the household. So it's going to be an interesting year to say the least, but I'm excited to see just what the community does, because I think people are smart and they're going to connect more and they're going to find solutions and opportunities where maybe
Yes.
before wasn't an option.
I beyond agree. I actually, now that he's saying that, I was remembering there was a guy who mentioned to me he used to go to shops to see the audience, the traffic in the shops, and see how many people are on the ground. All he does now is go to Google Maps and look at how busy the store is.
Oh,
Oh yeah, and he would just look how less crowded than usual. He would use that as his metric for investing purposes to see how busy people running to the Costco or not. And I thought that whole step was removed of him going to see the demand is gone. You're right. People find ways of using these tools to the best of their ability.
so good. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up.
I
I
love it.
wanted to say, if people want to connect with you, I mean, first of all, Dominick is the most friendly person you will ever
Oh,
meet. So I
stop.
highly recommend that if you're within this space, definitely LinkedIn him, befriend him, ask
I
him
love it.
questions. But what are other ways that people connect with you and the company?
Absolutely. Follow Retail Tech Media Nexus on LinkedIn. Go to the website, rtmnexus.com. Connect on LinkedIn, Dominick Miserandino. Connect. That's the goal. That should be all of our goals, just
Yeah.
to connect.
Well, thank you for
Thank
swinging
you
by,
so
giving
much.
us your beautiful insight. And you and I will be in conversation.
I'm looking forward to it. I love it.
Thanks so much. Thank you for joining us. We want you to be a part of the show, so let us know who you want to see and what stories you want to hear. Leave us a comment and make sure you like and subscribe.